This time, I would like to talk about two topics related to China, which is deeply connected to Japan. First, regarding the terrorist attack targeting Japanese people in Shenzhen, although there is a lot of information in Japanese about it, there's one fact that seems to be completely unaddressed. This is something I mentioned back on June 24, when the school bus of a Japanese school was attacked, and I talked about it recently as well. In China, there is dissatisfaction with Japanese schools. For example, only Japanese people can enroll in these schools. Because of that, there's speculation that they might be hiding something inside, leading to the widely spread theory that these schools are hubs for spies. This is why Japanese schools have been targeted, and this point isn't really covered in the Japanese media. Why aren't Japanese companies or areas with many Japanese residents targeted? Both the previous incident in Suzhou and the recent one in Shenzhen were aimed at Japanese schools. This is no coincidence. There is a significant amount of dissatisfaction toward Japanese schools in China. On social media, you can find posts saying things like killing children is terrible or the criminals are a disgrace to China. But while such opinions do exist, the important thing is to understand what those who commit these kinds of acts are thinking. Chinese media, which is controlled by the Communist Party's propaganda department, erases any information that's inconvenient. Anti-Japanese posts are currently regulated on Chinese social media, so all you see are posts criticizing the criminals. However, there are still some extreme comments praising the criminals, saying things like they did a good job. Some people criticize me, asking if I've even looked at Chinese social media, but that's not the point. The Chinese Communist Party is actively working to prevent China's reputation from worsening. Of course, there are people in China who think it's horrible to target children, but just because those people exist doesn't mean China is safe or that the Communist Party intends to protect foreigners, including Japanese people. As I mentioned earlier, there's this belief in China that Japanese schools are hubs for spies, and the Communist Party hasn't deleted this kind of information. In a previous video, I showed you a Chinese article, which can still be found with a simple search. There are people in China who think Japanese schools are suspicious, and that's why they're being targeted. For example, some articles claim that Japanese people completely manage Japanese schools, that even the guards and cleaning staff are Japanese, with no Chinese people involved. This information is incorrect, but it's being spread around. Another claim is that no Chinese people are allowed into Japanese schools, so all activities at these schools are hidden from the Chinese. Because of this, they are suspected of being involved in espionage. But I've been to the Japanese school in Shanghai, and there were Chinese nurses working there, so it's false that Chinese people aren't allowed in. Nevertheless, such misinformation circulates in China, leading to a dangerous situation for Japanese schools. Additionally, it's claimed that Japanese schools are heavily guarded and have security cameras everywhere, but isn't China itself that kind of country? Cameras are everywhere because the Communist Party is always watching, and because of the security situation, it's normal for any significant organization, whether it's a company or residential complex, to have cameras. So why are cameras at Japanese schools considered suspicious? There's also a claim that photography is prohibited around Japanese schools, but based on what I know, this is another falsehood. While security has indeed been tightened recently, it's possible that in some cases, suspicious individuals taking photos might be questioned by the authorities, but this doesn't apply exclusively to Japanese schools. In short, what's normal in China, such as setting up surveillance cameras or strengthening security, at Japanese schools is being interpreted as suspicious. Furthermore, there's a lot of false information circulating, like the claim that no Chinese people are allowed into Japanese schools. These deliberate lies are spreading, creating an impression that Japanese schools are secretive and doing something shady. This is why anti-Japanese Chinese citizens are sharing all kinds of information about Japanese schools. There's even information on the internet about how many Japanese schools there are in China and which ones are the largest. This is why the Japanese media is not reporting the fact that anti-Japanese Chinese people have these negative views about Japanese schools. That's the problem. The Chinese Communist Party has allowed this misinformation about Japanese schools to spread, and as a result, they're now being targeted. The party doesn't want to admit that their own anti-Japanese education is to blame. When I say this, some people criticize me, asking why I'm blaming the Communist Party for isolated incidents. But this is not a coincidence, it's the result of deliberate policies. Anyway, I'll leave the rest for another video, but I just wanted to emphasize that these attacks on Japanese people are 100% related to the Communist Party's policies. It's ridiculous for the Japanese government to just accept the Communist Party's narrative that these are isolated incidents and to say, "Okay, we understand." The Communist Party claims they want more foreigners, including Japanese people, to come to China, but how can they say that when they're allowing these conspiracy theories about Japanese schools to spread unchecked? Japan's politicians need to wake up and take a stronger stance. Otherwise, Japan will be taken advantage of.